Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We've moved on to the support tab for Eurocorps, doing unit comparisons here today with Bikefish, the instructor from the Bootcamp Discord. Highly recommend that you check out that Discord if you're interested in 1v1s and talk to Bikefish in particular. He seems to be a very nice, very knowledgeable fellow, and today we're going to be talking about Spags, which there are a lot of options and I see a couple of them that I think are probably noob traps, and I want to talk about that for this sort of guide where you're trying to get a sense of what you should bring in a general deck for each coalition. So, in particular, the All Noir and the base Gepard, and what you could take instead. So, Bikefish, you wanna run with that?
Yeah, so when we're talking about these two units that are up on the screen right now, the Ordnar and the base Gepard, um, the the Ordnar really kind of you see its shortcomings here. You get shorter range, you get less accuracy, you get less armor, which is actually important for one specific unit. I'll talk to you about that after we're done recording. But you just have some major deficiencies here, and really one of the big things is that range hit. Um, Aside from one unit, the Yasser Nimrod from Israel, all helicopter-based ATGMs top out at 2,800-meter range. So if you take the Ordinoir, there is a thin envelope where a helicopter-based ATGM of sufficient range can shoot at you, but you can't shoot back. That window does not exist on the Gepard platform.
Gotcha. And yet, at the same time, I don't think I think you were saying earlier before we started recording actually that you don't like the base Gepard. What's the reason for that?
So the reason I don't like the base Gepard is how it compares to the Gepard A1.
Ooh.
Um, with the base Gepard, in comparison to the A1, you lose out on two key things that, to me, just kind of make it a. You have to arrive at some other justification for why you're running the base Gepard, and because of the other AA units that we get access to in Eurocorps, those justifications don't really hold up. If we were talking something like Landjet, where you have an expensive spag that you're going to take in the automatic, having a cheaper one in the base Gepard, there's some logic that flows from that. It's just not present in EC, where we don't have access to these unicorn expensive spags.
And instead,
So
you're
the
gonna be probably slamming in a Crotal, maybe a Roland 3, something like that, and you need this sort
Mhm.
of midpoint. So why the A1 instead of the A2?
the A1 sits at a really nice price point and a really nice availability point in comparison to the A2. But what the A1 gets over the base, since we didn't hit that real
Oh
fast,
yeah,
is
sorry.
additional accuracy and a stabilizer. When it comes to dealing with aircraft, accuracy percentages are really nice. In the abstract, like, oh, if I shoot 100 bullets, 60% of them are going to hit the plane. But because when we're dealing with these, we're dealing with finite engagement envelopes, finite amount of shots. You just want to have that accuracy value be as high as you possibly can. And the difference between 45 and 60, even with something that has high rate of fire like a spag, is really, really big in terms of how consistently it's going to apply that damage. Additionally, having access to a stabilizer means even if you are not intending to shoot while on the move, you will start aiming before you stop moving, and therefore will begin shooting faster even if you are coming to a stationary stop in order to engage whatever target you're going after.
Gotcha, that makes a lot of sense. And now let's move on to the A2.
Yeah.
The main difference of which appears to be the slightly better stabilizer, as well as the existence of the non-radar fire and forget stingers.
Yeah. So the main reason you don't see this recommended a lot in kind of starter Eurocore is you're losing out on availability, and the gains of the stingers don't necessarily have as great an effect in the confines of an EC deck. Because as you've already mentioned, the Cortal, we have access to this excellent infrared anti-helicopter system. We have access to a very potent, very fast reloading, relatively speaking, AA system in the Rollins. So when you look at the Gepard A2 in comparison to the A1, you're paying 10 points more for incidental standing accuracy. I know we just talked about the base versus A, and that was a huge jump. 5%, not necessarily as much. The better stabilized accuracy is nice. It's a comfortable thing to have if you're doing a lot of maneuvering, but you're getting the stingers. You don't need the stingers because you don't have a lack of infrared AA. To go back to the Landjet comparison, if you're in Landjet where you're going to have an automatic and maybe running roll-ins and you don't have any other infrared AA, then something like the A2 becomes your way to get an infrared AA piece onto the field.
Gotcha. Well, that makes a lot of sense, and I think the recommendation here is hard for the Flak Panzer Gepard A1. And to accompany that, you're probably looking at a Crotal, and if you're going to do 3 pieces of anti-air as well, probably the Roland 3, one of the options there for anti-plane AA. So that's going to be the recommendation. We'll be back here tomorrow with a look at mortars.